Hello everybody, I'm gonna show you how to create a plugin for the BI Mobile App Designer. So we are starting in the actual BI Mobile App Designer. We're gonna create everything we need here for the plugin, and then we're gonna download everything, and then from there we're gonna start developing the actual plugin. So you start with creating a mobile app. And we're gonna use the sample sales light subject area. So we're gonna work with that data. And we're gonna give it a name. Let's call it example 1. Save it. Okay, and then you're in the actual BI Mobile App Designer. This is where you would normally develop a BI Mobile app, but we're going to create a plugin. So the way to do that is to just download the SDK up here. Give your plugin a name. Again, I'm going to call it example 1, and then give it an ID. This could really be anything. Just make sure it's unique. And then we can also extract data from the data model, from the data source that we have selected before. So we do that by clicking on the plus sign here and then picking the data that we want to pick. So we're going to pick the product, which is the product name. Don't look at this, that's not correct right now, but it is going to extract the product name. We're also going to extract the month, and then the measure. For measure we're going to use the revenue. So there we go. And now you can see it's correct. So you can see this is the actual data that's going to be extracted together with everything else you need to create the plugin. So just click download and you can see it created. It downloaded everything. Let's unzip it and let's see what this has now done. So it created this Bimad plugin folder, and in there you find everything you need to create your plugin. Probably the most important file to start with is this README file. I'll open it very quickly. It contains everything, all the information you need to get started with plugin development using this SDK. It talks about Node. You need Node because it's using Grunt, which is built on top of Node. How to set up your environment, which is what we're going to do next. And then all the different files and what they do. How to change your plugin file name. And then how to actually use the SDK commands like grunt server, grunt deploy, and undeploy. So we're probably going to hit on most of these things, but I recommend that you read this before you start doing anything. So let's switch to the folder in a terminal so we can start running the commands that we need. So the first thing you need to do is you need to run npm install, which is going to download all the assets that you need for the plugin as described in the SDK. After this, you should actually be able to run your plugin. Obviously, you haven't done anything yet, so you're not going to see anything interesting, but it should actually run. So if you run grunt server, there we go. And it is showing you the data that you downloaded in a very simple HTML table. Okay, so let's kill the server and actually open up. So you'll see there's a JavaScript file that's called example1. This is basically the name you gave your plugin. This is the ID you gave it. And there's some other interesting things in here, like the fields that are being used, which again is the things you picked. And there's two functions in this JavaScript. There's a render function and there's a refresh function. We'll talk about the refresh function later. But the render function is where you actually code your plugin. And as you can see, what it is doing currently is it's creating a H1 and header that has my first plugin in it. If it doesn't find any data, it's going to show no data found, but it is finding data. And then it's going to create a table with the data that it is found. So the data is being passed into this function. And then it's just creating that table. And that is the table that you see here. So you can see the header here and the table. Okay. So your first step is to remove what you don't want. I'll show you here how to actually use D3GS for your plugin development, but you could use any JavaScript framework. Your first protocol is to actually include the JavaScript framework that you're going to work with in here. So the way you do that is you add another property here, that is remote files. It's a JavaScript and then where it's located. And so D3GS can be found at I'm using version 3, the minified version. There we go. Next, we need to make sure that D3GS is loaded when the render function is run. So I'm going to just paste a piece of code that I made earlier for this in here. But that's the first thing you need to do. You probably need to do the same thing for other frameworks that you're using. And really all I'm checking here is if D3GS is available in the global window object. If it isn't, then 300 seconds later I check again. So this is going to loop until it actually finds the D3GS object in the window object, and then it's going to continue with your actual code. So let's just verify that this is actually working. We can do something very simple. So I'm just going to add a circle, paste some code here. So basically I'm just selecting the container element, which is the same element that we attached the header to. That's the thing that's being passed into the render function where you put your plugin into. I'm going to append SVG to it. Then I'm going to create a circle with a radius of 50, and I'm going to the X position and Y position at 100, and then I'm just going to fill it with the red color. And then when you render that, you'll see the red circle appearing. You can see that the circle is here. All right, that's really it as far as development is concerned. All that's left to do now is to deploy or publish your plugin so that it can be used by other developers in Bimad. All you have to do for that, kill the server again, is to run grunt deploy. This will ask you a few questions like which server you want to deploy it to, so we can leave it to that. You need to log in. And that's it. You can now go to the BI Mobile App Designer and actually use your plugin. So I'm just going to create a new page, make it blank. Insert plugin, example 1. I'm going to have to put some data in here, although it's not going to show any of it. And then I'm going to run it. And there you have it, your plugin used in BI Mobile App Designer.